Many of the frustrations that can be had with modern gaming could be fixed with something that Nintendo is doing that was found out recently and dug into a little bit more from Digital Foundry. Nintendo Life also commented up on an article about it, and I wanted to discuss it because some of the main problems that I've had from PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC gaming looks to be addressed here with what Nintendo is doing, and if it works out the way that I think that it will, this could revolutionize how people buy and play their games overall and what people are just looking for overall with modern gaming. One of the biggest issues with it. So I'm going to go over a number of main points after we go over the article. Then we'll kind of talk about how the Nintendo Switch 2 can affect all of this because I do think that it's very important overall. So shout outs to Nintendo Life for the article here because they stated that Digital Foundry digged into the Switch 2's 4K upscaling potential as patents inspire more speculation. And trust me guys, this isn't just 4K upscaling. There's more to it that I know you guys are going to love here. They recently discussed the patent suggesting that the Nintendo Switch 2 will utilize 4K AI upscaling technology, explaining what it could mean for the console and how Nintendo might put it into practice. Now, according to Digital Foundry's Alex B., the patent in question was filed by Nintendo's European research and development team at the end of last year and outlines a AI upscaling process to NVIDIA's DLSS technology, transforming a game's lower internal resolution to a higher upped resolution. The resolution numbers referred to throughout are about transferring a 540p image to a 1080p image, though the patent specifies that this is only an example and that the technology could also be applied to higher resolutions. For example, 1080p image to 4K image, something Nintendo Switch 2 could utilize in its dock, for example. So far, that's DLSS. But Digital Foundry explains that the Nintendo patent promises more than NVIDIA's alternative, with references to upscaling via the cloud, single image upscaling, and more. Now, the key difference, Alice B says, is that how the patent suggests it would be able to switch out DLSS upscaling models in real time. So even more strenuous sequences where the unusual upscaling learning wouldn't be able to keep up can benefit from a boost while keeping up the frame rate. So it looks like they're kind of advancing and doing something a little bit different with this DLS technology that NVIDIA has and kind of forming it to, I don't know, like Nintendo LS technology or something like that. Maybe they're putting their own spin on it and advancing it and kind of, I would say, forming it to what the Nintendo Switch 2 will be or what Nintendo feels it can do with hardware specifically designed for it. Now, much like the point that was made by accessibility/cultural consultant Laura Kate Dale back when we first spotted the patent, Alex B also notes that the technology could be used to reduce game sizes and fit them into Nintendo's comparatively smaller carts. And in short, the patent is broad, hardly a first from Nintendo's patents, but its overall message is that machine learning upscaling could occur either via cloud streaming or from the device itself, which is a rather exciting prospect because you have multiple ways of getting it done. Now, Alex B seems confident after his initial analysis that this upscaling tech will be utilized in Nintendo Switch 2, but as always, with the case with patents, there's never any guarantee that we will see the contents come to fruition. Nintendo does kind of do things where they talk about patents or talk about certain things, and sometimes we don't see those. But considering what we already know about the Nintendo Switch 2 and what's going on with the chip, it does seem like this DLSS type technology tech will be something that Nintendo will be working on in the background. And the patent speculation doesn't just stop right there. Just the other week, comicbook.com flagged a 2022 Nintendo patent, which recently resurfaced following its European application. This one was all about the motion sensor technology, particularly how a sensor placed at the top of a TV can register and interact with a handheld device. It has a faint whiff of something Wii related, or maybe something more in line with the Xbox Kinect, and the outlet speculated that such tech could be utilized in the Nintendo Switch 2 for more motion-controlled gaming, a Wii library, for example. Now, once again, just because this is a thing doesn't mean Nintendo's 100% going to use it. We've seen them do patents and then not use it, then maybe circle back around years later, so just keep all of that in mind. But it is very interesting to talk about this considering Nintendo is on the cusp of showing off the Nintendo Switch 2 and what it can actually do. Now, I did say that I wanted to go over some key or main points that I really felt was interesting here that can fix a lot of problems that we see when it comes to gaming. We have seen before when it comes to certain games, they're using lower resolutions and they're doing the frame generation, or they're doing DLSS on PC or something like that. But I do think that for Nintendo's technology to have something that you can use that takes a 540p image and makes it look like 1080p, using that upscaling to get to that, that would have been so key for the Nintendo Switch for games like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, for example, or for other titles that do have a little bit of a lower resolution at times because of what's going on screen and making it look better. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, there's a plethora of games that absolutely could have used that. So I think that's going to be a key thing, especially when developing more intensive games on the Nintendo Switch 2, that you can have that lower resolution. You can kind of render it at that, but not worry about it looking bad on a big TV because you have that DLSS technology, especially if Nintendo's technology that they're using isn't just a rip and play from the PC DLSS and what we see on the NVIDIA graphics cards, but one built specifically in terms of Nintendo and NVIDIA working together to specifically make it with some tweaks for this hardware and the specifications of that hardware. I think that could take things to a new level overall in terms of how the developers are making their games and how they're going to look when we play them, so we don't get those problems that we saw with the Nintendo Switch 1, even as we get more advanced games that take more of a toll on the hardware on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series. Now, another thing that I think is a very big or key main point is the technology to reduce game sizes. This is probably one of the biggest things here because game sizes have blown up to way too big. Like, there are games that are 100 something, 140, 150 or more gigabytes. That's insane. I don't even download games that are that big. I don't feel like worrying about putting all of that on a hard drive. I barely do that on my PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series, and when I do, it's got to be a game that I really want to play. Games like Call of Duty or whatever the case is, I don't even bother with that because of the size of the games. So if they can figure out something with this to reduce the game sizes, make them fit on the cartridges, use different things like DLSS or the Nintendo LSS or whatever the heck it's going to be, or how Nintendo's going to categorize it, to reduce the game size but still make the games look good and have some of these graphic intense games that weren't able to go on the Nintendo Switch and get them running on the Nintendo Switch 2. This is going to fix so many issues that people have with modern gaming overall. And I think that if you're talking about a hybrid platform where you can play handheld in addition to the TV, it creates an incredibly attractive purchase for many people out there because you don't have to worry about these massive file sizes. You're going to have physical games as well, and you're going to be able to get pretty clean looking images overall. Obviously, it's not going to be as good as a PlayStation 5 Pro or the highest end PCs, but if you look at some of the other things with it when it comes to what it can do with reducing game sizes, if this is, once again, hypothetically, if all this kind of comes to pass, that's going to be really good. And I think that people are going to opt for the I can play anywhere version of that. Now, another thing that I want to go over to is that there's still more hardware secrets that we don't know, like I outlined here with some of these patents. Nintendo did not explain everything when it comes to the hardware. We think that we know everything based off the leaks and all that, but we don't know how there's going to be different stuff applied in games. So I'm almost positive that Nintendo has more hardware features or gimmicks or little things that they're going to talk about more at that Nintendo Switch 2 Direct in April, on April 2nd. So that is going to be awesome to go over and talk about. Now, what do you guys think about all of this? I think it's very interesting, and once again, I feel that if Nintendo can do something when it comes to the games to where they don't look bad on their system, like we saw with the Nintendo Switch 1, which I think that they're going to handle based off of what we know about some of the leaked specs with the Nintendo Switch 2 and this new technology, reducing game sizes and adding in some cool other things that we don't know about, man, I think that April 2nd is going to cause an explosion when it comes to online. I think that people are going to be locked in no matter what because people are just looking forward to the Nintendo Switch 2. But man, there could be even bigger and better things waiting for us with this Nintendo Switch 2 hardware. So we'll see what happens from there. But let's go and move on to the next topic here when it comes to some RPG news, and that is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I was wondering how this game was going to do on PC, but it actually sets a single player franchise record for concurrent players on Steam. So that's good for Square Enix. So Square Enix released Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on January 23rd, and the game has already set a new record for single-player entries in the Final Fantasy franchise. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth reached a peak of 40,564 concurrent players on PC via Steam, according to SteamDB. The PC version also released on the Epic Game Store as well, so there's more people playing it there. Only the massively multiplayer online RPG, Final Fantasy XIV, has had a higher peak of concurrent players with 95,150. And this was definitely a good thing because a lot of people felt that Final Fantasy would not do well on PC considering how Final Fantasy 16 did. I think it had about a 27 or so thousand when it comes to concurrent players peak, and that's okay, but not really for the stature of Final Fantasy. But these games are launching way after when it comes down to it, so a lot of Final Fantasy fans have already played it. Even if they have a PC that can run it and do fine, they've probably already played it on PS5, so it is a little bit weird in terms of the comparison, but it's definitely good to see that Rebirth did so well, and it did considerably better than Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade and some of the other Final Fantasy games that have came out over the years. It actually set the record overall, so that's definitely good news going forward, because if they decide to actually make a Final Fantasy game where it launches day and date with the other platforms and everything is all in line, I think that we could see upward of 100,000 plus like Final Fantasy XIV got overall. So I do think that that will increase if we get Final Fantasy 17, for example, and that is day and date Nintendo Switch 2, PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox. I think that we're going to see millions of players right off the top. If the game is good and everything like that, I think it's going to get back to those high numbers that we saw with Final Fantasy 15, for example. So what do you guys think about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth setting a single-player concurrent record in the Final Fantasy franchise? Let me know in the comment section below. But we do have one more topic that I want to go over, and that is Phil Spencer's talk with Destin Legary. He has a new site that he's doing. It's really just his site that was Destin, his YouTube channel, but now it's Safe State Plus. He has like a Patreon and all that. So he got a big interview with Phil Spencer, and we talked about some of the stuff that Phil Spencer's been saying. We talked about it with Gamertag Radio. They also got an interview, but Phil Spencer mirrors what is happening, or a lot of the stuff that's leaked overall with Xbox supporting Nintendo Switch 2. But he also says this, which I would say puts like the nail in the coffin. If anybody thought that maybe he was kind of beating around the bush or there's something else to say there, here's what Phil Spencer had to say about Starfield, in particular exclusivity, because remember, that was rumored to come to the Nintendo Switch 2 in addition to PlayStation 5, and Destin started off by saying, can you solidify that Starfield is staying put for the time being? Phil Spencer says, no, it's not. So essentially everything is up. Phil Spencer has stated that there is no red tape around certain games and all of that. He also talked more about the Xbox Series S and how that would relate to what's happening in the industry with the Nintendo Switch 2 or with the Steam Deck, where you have these lower spec systems when it comes to battery powered and how they have to, kind of operate, because there is a battery, you don't want it to blow up in your hands, compared to the highest end PCs and all that. And he says that, hey, we feel that this is a good thing that we're set up because more and more people are adopting these different platforms, and we want to be able to have our games run on a range of specs to where you can play that anywhere. So he did once again reiterate that, yeah, like we're going to be supporting the Nintendo Switch 2, and I do think that it also kind of falls in line with some of the stuff that we've heard about, okay, exactly where is the Nintendo Switch 2 going to be when it comes to porting games over? And it seems like Phil Spencer seems like there's no problem putting games on there because they have the Xbox Series S and they're going to be supporting what Steam Deck does and all of that. So I think that right there tells you that the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be plenty strong enough to handle the games that are coming out on Xbox Series S, Steam Deck, whatever the case is. So very good interview from Destin there. Shout outs to him. He's doing his own thing now. He's no longer at IGN, it seems, so I wish him the best of luck. And I think that he's already off to a very good start here with getting an interview with Phil Spencer. So, yeah, guys, what do you think overall? Looks like Microsoft is all on board when it comes to supporting Nintendo Switch 2, but also being a full, legit third-party developer that also happens to create their own games and create their own hardware and just kind of says, hey, we want you buying and playing our stuff regardless. You want to buy our Xbox to play it? Cool. You want our Game Pass? Cool. You want to buy our game over there? Cool. Just as long as you're buying something from us, we're okay with that. So I think that after 2 generations where you haven't really sold more than 60 million, where this past generation has been really rough, where you've only sold around 30 something million. I think it was time for them at this point. Making console exclusives makes no sense for them in particular, which Phil Spencer said, hey, look, it doesn't work for them, considering they've spent billions and billions of dollars on acquiring different game studios, and that wasn't even able to jump up the sales dramatically. So I understand what Phil Spencer's trying to say here. But what are your thoughts on all of this, guys, when it comes to Nintendo Switch 2, what Digital Foundry had to say, Final Fantasy, and of course Phil Spencer? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG videos and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.